Welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Russia's attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure continue even as Western partners step up military support. The UK has announced a major new air defense package, while European funding and NATO coordination efforts intensify ahead of fresh diplomatic contacts. With peace discussions expected soon and frontline cities facing mounting pressure, questions remain about whether support matches the scale of the challenge. Joining us today on TVP World to discuss all of this is Marta Shokalo, editor-in-chief of BBC News Ukrainian, overseeing comprehensive coverage of the war as well as Ukraine's political landscape. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning.
So the most immediate thing that we want to discuss today, because the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has just indicated that he might be meeting President Zelenskyy, and I'm wondering if you are expecting anything new to come out of it.
Well, I guess there is a high chance that in the coming days we will get some big news on progression in peace talks, because today we saw an interview by Simon Schuster with Zelenskyy for Atlantic, and Zelenskyy confirmed that he's not ruling out president elections in May, and together with referendum on one of the questions would be about giving up some territories. So he wants people of Ukraine to say their word in that. But it looks like the fact that it's been already in informational space, the news about elections, which even a couple of months ago was something unreal, now it looks more and more real. And I guess that is the main demand from US. So they want elections and they want peace deal.
Right. It does seem like the U.S. administration is pressing pretty hard for that election to take place. But previously, Zelenskyy stated, and I think rightfully, that in a war condition, it is really hard to conduct any sort of referendum with any sort of credibility. So how do they expect that to proceed and will have any value to it?
We don't hear about any details. So as on one hand, you see it's very hard to conduct any sort of election or referendum in the country where you have these massive strikes every day. Like we are speaking now, and Ukraine is under massive attack. Western Ukraine is under massive attack. The territory around one of the nuclear power stations in western part of Ukraine. So how you can organize something like that, but I guess that's the next step. So the first step right now is to have some sort of agreement with US, between US, Ukraine, on what are the next steps, because it looks like the window of possibilities for any sort of resolution of the conflict, of the war, will be in spring. And if all sides fail to come to any agreement in that period, very short period of time, it looks like the war will go on for I don't know how long. And to be honest, Ukraine is not in the best after this winter. Winter is still not finished, and it's pretty bad. So the conditions of life in Ukraine are deteriorating very quickly in many cities. Mainly, well, one of the main sort of cities affected is capital city Kyiv, and nobody knows. So at the moment, people live like in this mood of waiting for spring to come and to the weather change. At least we don't have any frosts, but who knows what the whole infrastructure, how it will look like after such massive attacks and destruction. And the big question is about economy. Will be able to survive without electricity? So it looks like Ukraine is under massive pressure, and I guess Zelenskyy understands that. And we need US on our side. No matter what happens, we need US on our side to help us. So as I hear, so main topic now between US and Ukraine is about the security guarantee from US side. If Ukraine agrees to giving up territory in some way in Donbass region, so what will US do to protect Ukraine's integrity and to guarantee that Russia will not start attack, I don't know, in a couple of months or so.
Right. Just to regroup and use this pause as a way to kind of stock up ammunition. And like you mentioned, this is going to be a very tough discussion to be had. Ukraine seems to be stuck between a rock and a very hard place, seeing that their civilians are still being pounded by Russian bombardment and civilian infrastructure is being targeted. Now, one of the maybe a little bit of silver lining is the UK having unveiled substantial new air defense package. So from Kyiev's perspective, do you think that this can that translate into urgent battlefield realities, or at least defense for some of the critical civilian infrastructures, or is it going to slow Russian campaign a little bit?
Well, I don't think it will slow Russian campaign, to be honest. It's only the matter of Ukraine's survival, because at the moment everything looks so bad. I mean, the state of the whole power system in Ukraine, and if it carries on like that, I think the partners, they are just worried that Ukraine if Russia carries on like this, and Ukraine does not have enough weapons to protect itself, it's going to be really bad. So it's something like, I would say that's an urgent need, because the attacks happening almost every day. Just don't forget, not all of them appear in news, but they are happening every single day. In one region or another region, in the east, in the south. Kyiv is under attack every 5 days, I would say. Now Western Ukraine is under massive pressure and attacks in the last week, because they have this power facilities. So the main target is now power facilities, because if that's collapsed, power system, then it's not just about heating, and it's about business and economy, which is really dangerous.
I think you made a very good point there, because we're looking at the immediate aftermath of some of these strikes and how they're leaving Ukraine out in the cold. But the attack on infrastructure also going to have a downstream effect of paralyzing the economy going forward. So we might actually be looking at consequences that we are not looking at right now, that's going to kind of start surfacing. But in the meantime, we do see some Europe support now have been flowing through more coordinated mechanisms rather than kind of these direct US aid. Do you think that Europe effectively has taken the lead and is able to alleviate some of the hardship that Ukraine is feeling, be it right now or later on be utilized in a way that can alleviate some of the stress?
Well, I guess Europe supports Ukraine we do have support from Europe, because Europe is giving money, Europe is giving weapons. Without help, we wouldn't be able, Ukraine will not be able to survive. But I would say the main thing is now negotiations with US. And I think the Munich conference in the next couple of days, starting tomorrow and then Saturday, we definitely hear some news around this, because that would be one of the key I guess questions, problems to be solved. And I guess it does feel that Europe at the moment is a bit slightly in the shade, although we can see that the intensifying of discussions about possible admission of Ukraine's admission to EU from 2027. How real is that? It's really hard to say now, but the fact that it's already sort of circulating in informational agenda, I think it's significant.
Right, like you mentioned, your reliance on U.S., I think it's a fact that you can't really be avoided, but we're also seeing a little bit of political turmoil within Ukraine as well. Do you think going into this discussion, there's any sort of coherent strategy, or anything that Zelenskyy can bring to the table that is could be in favor of Ukraine when it comes to these discussions?
Well, I think when you look at all these negotiations, how they progress and what we hear, I will just to make sure that you understand that so much going on behind the scenes that we don't know, and I think that's a bit like a chess game. So it's like every player is trying to sort of gain, the more it can. And I guess Zelenskyy move about, I think the announcement about elections. Elections is one of the key demands from US. And he knows that, and he knows that he will not be able to avoid that. So he's doing this sort of his turn ahead and saying, okay, if we're having election, let's have a referendum and see what Ukrainians say about giving up territories, because that is still, despite everything that's going on in Ukraine right now, and despite how hard it is, it's still something that people, I don't think Ukrainians will support the idea of giving up territories. Maybe there will be some sort of compromise, giving up territories on some condition that will allow, for example, those territories not be occupied by Russia straight away. Somehow maybe having some military presence there, just to make sure that Russia does not progress. So we don't know really. We have this all different scenarios flying around, but to say 100% when it's going to happen and if it's going to happen is still very hard.
Yeah, a lot is still up in the air, but like you mentioned, behind the scenes, there's also a lot of negotiation that's going on. But we do see Ukraine kind of being able to navigate these conversations with the United States better instead of just butting heads. And we'll have to see, of course, how this turns out after the conference. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your input and insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers. And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.